Jeff Duncan, who is a phenomenal writer down in the city, covers the Saints for The Athletic, had a great draft day story that came out of the the virtual war room that the New Orleans Saints were running on draft day on the third day of the 7th round and going to get Tommy Stevens. And then yesterday, Stevens jumped on with Hester and told a little bit about his side of the story. And Mike Triplett, who covers the Saints for ESPN.com, after Duncan's article had been published by The Athletic, was reacting to it. So let's start with Triplett, giving his reaction and setting up the story of Tommy Stevens going in the 7th round to the New Orleans Saints.
Sean Payton offered a detailed look inside the undrafted rookie recruitment process, and in doing so, he also offered a glimpse of his legendary competitiveness. As Payton explained to The Athletic, the reason the Saints traded back into round 7 to draft Mississippi State quarterback Tommy Stevens was because they found out if he went undrafted, he was planning to sign with the rival Panthers instead. There's a lot of interesting connections there. Stevens worked with new Panthers offensive coordinator Joe Brady in college, and Brady, of course, worked for Payton and the Saints. But the ultimate connection is that Stevens is kind of a do-everything runner, receiver, quarterback hybrid that is often compared to the Saints' own Taysom Hill. As Sean Payton said, we invented that role. So as both Payton and assistant GM Jeff Ireland said, their competitive juices kicked in. They first tried to outbid the Panthers, and when they found out that wasn't going to work, well, they traded away a future 6th-rounder and outflanked them instead.
Yeah, so there's some there's some juicy details here that I absolutely love. The first of which is even before they worked into trading back into this round to show you. It's so funny, the evolution of the story of the drafting of Tommy Stevens. At first, I was like, what the hell? Why would anybody draft this kid? He lost the job to Garrett Schrader, Mississippi State. Then it was like, oh, they think he's like Taysom Hill. Okay, that's interesting. Sure, let's see what he can do. But now to see the lengths that they were willing to go. I mean, even before the trade, like I said, I don't know a ton about undrafted free agent contracts. I can only speak from my personal experience and talking to other people that I know. But some of the numbers I'd never seen for an undrafted free agent. First off, Carolina had offered him a $15,000 signing bonus, which isn't that's not too crazy. But then $30K guaranteed of his salary. I don't think that I've ever heard of guaranteed money for an undrafted free agent. The Saints then matched that offer, and they're telling him, look, man, you can be Taysom 2.0. Like, we got the role. We got the spot for you. Stevens didn't care. He was still sticking with the Panthers. Payton then offers $144K guaranteed.
That is the most shocking
to
part
a 7th-round draft pick
that's come out of the story.
I mean, or really to an undrafted free agent at that point. So, like, somebody who there's a good chance he doesn't even make the roster. He might make practice squad. Practice squad, I think, gets like right at like $100K max.
Jameis Winston's signing bonus was $147K.
So he had $144K guaranteed. But still, at this point, it's interesting. So he offers that. Tommy Stevens' camp says, let's think about it. Then they go radio silent. That's how committed he was to Joe Brady. And it makes sense. I mean, Tommy Stevens and Joe Brady knew each other from Penn State. Joe Brady knows the Taysom Hill position and its creation from working in New Orleans with Payton. So Brady's seen the same thing that Payton is. He's seen Tommy Stevens as a guy that can be that role, and Brady likes to emulate Payton in a lot of ways. He wants to bring that role to Carolina. And so at this point, it's dead in the water. Saints are dead. The Panthers have won. I mean, if you're offering the guy $144 guaranteed and he's gone radio silent, you're done. You're done, right? Well, not so fast. This is when Payton decided, look, he wasn't going to lose him to a division rival, but Jordy, I don't know about you. I think even more so, he wasn't going to lose him to Joe Brady.
I know that to be so.
The kid that Sean Payton created, essentially, right? Like and if you've been watching, if you listen to the show every day, which thank you, you're crazy, but thank you. We've discussed some of the kind of petty jabs that have been taken in public with these, whether it was Payton, like, they were talking about some Joe Brady play call, and Payton basically dropped like, oh, yeah, I remember we ran that a few weeks ago or something. You can just tell that there's Payton's a little like, okay, y'all are hyping this guy up. It's a lot of our stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Payton, not wanting to lose him, trades back in the round. He gets on the phone. I think they had two takers. They offer up the 2021 6th to get back in at the end of the 7th. And what I love is, so you heard Mike Triplett say he called up Tommy Stevens' camp, and he says, I'm tired of asking, now I'm taking. But before that, he fired off a text to Joe Brady saying, not so fast.
I love it, man.
Not so
I think
fast.
You're gonna see this maybe start to boil over a little bit more now that they're in the same division. They're coaching some of the same players. They're in the same draft, going after the same players. There's a lot of comps between a young Joe Brady and a young Sean Payton. That's something that you can tell Payton. It gets to him a little bit, even when Brady took the job. At LSU, I mean, some of the comments that he had made and some of the things that he came out and said. And then if you remember the national championship game when Brady was, dicing Clemson up, and after the game, Peyton had like this quasi press conference on the way down where a couple of media members saw him coming down and say, hey, Coach, what'd you think about the game? And he said he had to tell Mickey, pass the binoculars. Is that still that young kid, Joe Brady, over there calling plays? And I think Brady saw that on Twitter, him calling him a kid still, and that was something that kind of annoyed Brady to a degree. So I think that there is something under the surface between these two football wizards. Yeah. One that has been there for a while, the other newest to the party that's growing. And I kind of
He's the new kid on the block.
I love the pettiness of seeing behind the scenes of what goes on in an NFL draft room, because I think, you think about all the energy that they exerted for a 7th round pick.
I mean, really for an undrafted free agent, because he wasn't going to get drafted. Like, he only got drafted because of all the weird little pettiness that ended up cropping up in the story.
It's fascinating to watch and kind of think about what could be between these two guys, because I don't think Brady's made any secret about it. He wants to be an NFL head coach.
Think about the pettiness of even putting this all out there. Sean Payton's not a notoriously open person, right? I mean, and as during the pandemic, he's kind of been on fire, right? His Twitter fingers have been incredible. He's been cracking jokes. He's been more open, but he made a point of giving Jeff Duncan the play-by-play details here, right? He didn't do that by accident. He wanted it to be clearly known what we are talking about right now, that him and Brady and the Panthers went head-to-head on draft day, and that the Saints came out with a win. I mean, even the Jeff Ireland quotes where he's basically like, the Panthers thought they had it. They thought they had him. We said not so fast.
You can see the dynamic between Ireland and Peyton are probably pretty. They probably work pretty well together.
Ireland is still the turning point, the hiring that you can point to when the Saints went from being. It's probably under talked about how wild the turnaround was. For 5 years, the Saints were, no exaggeration, the worst front office in the NFL. If you just looked at the percentage of draft picks that were on the team, just the raw amount of draft picks. They had the least amount of picks, the least percent. Like it was bad all around. You had the Jairus Byrd contract, Ginger Gillette. And then when Ireland came, that's when everything changed. And that's when you had these last few drafts where it's been home run after home run. And we'll have to see how this draft works out. But I actually like their strategy. We talked with Duncan the other day. What I want to see now, Jordy, I mean, you want to talk about a little extra motivation. Not that they need any, but you know that they are going to be locked in Carolina week with Bridgewater coming to town, Joe Brady. Like the old crew's coming back trying to prove a point. He's going to have DA like, look, man, you better have it dialed up this week because I'm out for blood. Y'all got to be out for blood. We're killing these kids. So it's just a little extra juice. I mean, the NFC South is the most exciting division in football, in my opinion, with Brady and Gronk now joining that Tampa squad. And then all the storylines, like we said, of Joe Brady and Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina and Matt Rule, the young hotshot coach that Sean Payton once kind of was, like, and they kind of lost in the shuffles. Atlanta, who they're lost in shuffle because it's kind of boring move wise, but they're still a good team. Yeah. Like they were supposed to be good last year, and they blew it out the gates, and they finished 7-9. They beat the Saints, but the NFC South is just going to be spectacular.